Today we're going to build this. This is a simple but powerful AI agent built in N8N that can read cover letters and automatically decide if an applicant should get an interview or a rejection letter. And I'm even going to show you exactly how to create it from the ground up, even if you're a total beginner. Let's get right into it. So now if you haven't seen my last video, I went over in detail exactly what N8N is and how to use it. But quickly, I just want you to think of N8N kind of like Lego for automation. You get to snap together different tools like Gmail, Notion, ChatGPT, Slack. You get to put them together to create custom workflows for your business. You don't need any coding. You can simply just drag and drop. Now, there are two different versions of N8N. There's a community version. This basically allows you to host it on yourself, your own platform, your own servers. And then there's the cloud version, which is what you see when you go on N8N's website. Now, for the self-hosted version, you might need to use that if you have, let's say, government contracts or maybe some kind of regulatory body that requires you to keep your customers' data on like a regulated platform. Now, the cloud feature can do everything that community feature can do, but it has a little bit more features. For what we're going to be building, we're going to build everything on the cloud version. Now, if you go over to the pricing, there's several different pricing plans, but what really is good is that you're able to sign up with a free trial. And signing up is very simple. You simply click, start your free trial, and then enter in some information, and then you'll be fully logged in. Now, because I already have an account, we're just gonna log straight into my account right now. Now, here's the initial dashboard. This holds all of your projects, all of your workflows. You even have an ability to go through other templates, which are designs that have been created by other people, and implement them into your own workflow. Now, to create a new project, it's very simple. All you have to do is you click the plus and you click projects and you can create another project. Now, you can see I'm limited to 3 projects because of the plan that I've selected, so I won't be able to create another one. But depending on your plan, you might be able to create more than 3. For this use case, I'm perfectly fine with the 3 that we have, so we can actually just jump right in. Now, a project is simply just a collection of different workspaces. Think of it almost like a folder that you can share. So for example, you might have a workspace that's just for handling automated questions about job postings, while another workspace might be used for filtering out candidates. So to create a new workspace is very simple. All we need to do is we just have to click create a new workspace, and then we're brought right into our workspace. Let's give it a quick name. We'll call it cover letter. Now, the workspace is where our automation will live. This is where we'll be adding nodes, connecting to ChatGPT, sending emails. Everything that we're going to need to do for this automation is going to be held within the workspace. So now nodes in N8N are like the building blocks for automation, just like those Lego pieces. Each one represents a specific action, app, or a decision. You connect them together with these wires, almost like a wire in a circuit, and these wires help to create those smart workflows that move data, actions, and automate the entire process. Let's add a node to see exactly how this works. Adding a node is simple. You just have to click the plus sign either here in the center or in the top right-hand corner, and then we'll need to figure out what type of node we want to add. So there's several things that these nodes can do, and sometimes it can be hard to kind of figure out which one is best. The best approach is actually to break down everything that we need to do into simple steps and then use the search to see if there's a trigger or action that matches that step. So now if we're thinking about what we're trying to build, we're probably going to need a way for somebody to send their cover letter to us. So for this, we can use a form. Now that we've added the form, you can see that we're inside the node. Let's actually take a look at this. There are 3 main components to this node. On the left is the input field. This is where all of the data is being sent or captured or processed. On the right is what we have the output preview. This is going to show you the result, and it lets you figure out if you need to tweak some of the options that you've selected in the center. Now, the middle is what we're going to just call the action selector. This is where you choose what you want your node to do. It's like telling a virtual assistant, send an email, fetch some data from Notion, or talk to, let's say, ChatGPT. Now, if you're ever unsure of what a node actually does, we can click in the top corner right here and click Docs, and it'll bring up the documentation for that node. So because we have a form, we need to create some fields. Let's start by creating some of these fields. So the first thing we need to do is give our form a name. We'll call it cover letter submission. And now we'll add some of the fields. the first thing we're probably going to need is a name field. And the second thing we're going to probably need is an email. Now for the element type, we're going to want to select email just to make sure that when somebody puts something in the email field, it conforms to the email standard. We want to make sure that it's required. Now for the last field, we have a few options. We could do a file upload, but for this one, I think what I want people to do is I want them to paste their cover letter right into the actual form. So I'm going to select text area, which essentially allows for multiple lines within the same text field. And again, I'm going to call this required. Now, if we go over all of the fields, you'll notice that there's an option for fixed or expression. We're not going to cover this right now, but this is going to be something that's very important in the future. Now that we have a working form, we need a way to test it. So what we're going to do is we're going to click test this step. By clicking testing this step, we can see that it actually brings up our form. Let's try to submit some data. So we'll just do email.com. And for the message for the cover letter, let's say I would really like to work here. I have no plans, but love the company. So we're going to click submit and we're going to see what happens. If you take a look at this, you can see that the data that we entered is in the output. Now there's 3 different ways to view it. There's schema, table, and JSON. Now it's kind of important to understand what JSON is, but don't worry, it's very simple. JSON is simply a way that computers exchange information. It's a format that's easy to read by both machines and humans. It's organized in something called pairs, and these pairs are known as your key and value. Now they work just like a table. So if we look at a table, you'll see that if I wanted to look up somebody's name, I would use the name column and then look at the value, which would be Chris in this case. So when we look at the JSON file, we can see the exact same thing. Our key is name and our value is Chris. It's the exact same thing with the email and the message. Everything is organized in these key value pairs. This will be very important later on because this is how we can get the nodes to speak to each other. Every time that you want to test the workflow, you would actually have to rerun each individual node. Now, when you're building workflows, sometimes you really don't want to do this, especially when you're just testing. Well, N8N has a feature that lets you keep all of the values so that way you don't need to keep opening up a form and re-entering it. This feature is going to become really important when we start building out the actual AI agent because every time we send something to ChatGPT, it would cost us money. If we pin it, then we only have to pay for that one time that we process that information. So for here, we're going to go into the top right-hand corner and click the little pin to pin this data so we don't have to keep entering in information in the form. Later, when we're ready to rerun everything, we can actually unselect the pin. So now we have a way for people to send us their cover letters. We also need a way to rank them. For this, we're definitely going to use AI. So let's add another node and let's search for OpenAI, and we're going to select message a model. Now, if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see that our data from the form is already there. And that's because our nodes are connected. You'll see it's in the same key value pairs that we had before. So the output of the last node becomes the input of this node. So we have everything that we need, but we still need a way for AI to read the contents and also make a rating. This node has the power to do that, but we first have to get an API key from OpenAI. So to get one, what you need to do is create a credential, and then you'll need to follow the instructions on OpenAI's website in order to open up an account with them and then select create a key. Now, I already have a key for this, so we're just going to use what I already have. But there is something that you really have to understand. Every time we send OpenAI a request, we're charged for it. That API key helps our automation communicate with OpenAI, but it also makes sure that we're charged for every use that we have. Now, before we go any further here, we're going to actually need to create a custom agent. For this, we're going to actually get the help of ChatGPT, which is going to help us to make a prompt that's going to create the agent that we need in order to be able to do this. So let's use this prompt. So we're simply going to ask ChatGPT to create us an AI agent. It has to be able to read 3 important fields, which is going to be the name, email, and the cover letter field. It'll then be able to compare it to a job description and then provide a percentage for how close the cover letter matches the job description. It also needs to make sure that if we have any special instructions that need to be included in the cover letter, that the applicant included it. Now, we need to make sure that whatever it outputs, it's going to output it in a format that we can read with other nodes. So we're going to ask it to output it in the JSON format, and also to give a summary of the cover letter with a comparison to the job description. And then of course the score. So we're going to ask it to give us the summary and the score. So let's create this agent. Perfect. Now let's finish setting up our node. Remember, we need our response to be in JSON format so that way we can get the score field, which we're going to later on use as a comparison. So we're going to select output content as JSON. So with OpenAI, we can select different models. For this one, I think we're going to select the 4.0 model. Now we have 3 different roles we can assign to our prompts. We have system, assistant, and user. The system is really telling our AI agent what we want it to do and how. This is where our AI agent prompt and even our job description can go. So what we're going to do is we're going to create one for each. So we're going to copy and paste the prompt that we were given from ChatGPT and make sure that we select a system prompt. Then we're going to add another message, and I'm going to copy and paste a job description for a plumbing company called We Are Plumbers. Now, the last thing we need to do is we need to get the information that our AI agent needs to make the assessment to the model. So we have to create another prompt, which is going to be a user prompt. Now, if you remember, there are 2 different types of formatting that we can use for this section. We can use a fixed or an expression. Now, if we were to use fixed, as you can see, you basically just put in the values and those values will always be, as it says, fixed. But instead, what if you had a way that you could reference the keys to always get the values? Because if you think about it, the applicants will always be changing. Well, you can do that by selecting expression. Now, in the expression field, we're going to try and tell the model what the data is that we're giving it. So for the first one, we'll say name. Second one, we'll say email. And the third one, I think we said it was cover letter. Now, what expression allows us to do is it allows us to grab each of the values by the key reference. So we can dynamically update this information as it's coming in. So for the first one, we can click on name and drag and drop it and add in the reference to the name field. We can do the exact same thing for email and the exact same thing for the actual message or the cover letter. So doing it this way, these expressions will now act like a placeholder. So when the new data comes in, it will replace these values with the actual value from that key. So now we have everything set up. All we need to do is to test this step. I'm going to click test step and we can see if it works. Perfect. So if you take a look here, our AI agent was able to look at the information. It provided the score. It said 0. Clearly, I said I had no experience, so it gave me a rating of 0 because it doesn't match the job description. And it even gave a summary as to why. It says that the applicant's cover letter lacks the relevance to the job description as they do not merit any experience in plumbing or leadership. Remember, our company is We Are Plumbers. Additionally, cover letter doesn't address any of the qualification or responsibilities outlined in the job description. There's no indication of any compliance with any specific instructions, as none were provided. Overall, the cover letter is not tailored to the job requirements. So this is perfect. We have now a way for somebody to submit their cover letter. AI can take a look at it and determine whether or not there's even a close match from the cover letter to the job description, and it can provide a score. But now we still need to do something with that score because we're going to want different actions depending on what we get. So what we need to do is we need to find a way to branch depending on the final score. So for this, let's say that any candidate that has an 80% or better, we'll send an email to our HR team for review. And anybody else that has, let's say, less than 80%, we'll send an email directly to them to let them know that we've decided to proceed with somebody else. So now N8N has this capability built in. We can use something called an if or even a switch node. Now, an if node allows us to take an action if a condition is true, or it will do something else if the condition is false. It basically has 2 paths. A switch will allow us to do more than 2 paths. So imagine we had a condition where everybody who had 90% or better would automatically be given an interview. Everyone between 90 and 80 would be sent to HR for review, and anybody less than 80% would just be an automatic decline. If that was what we were trying to build, we could use a switch statement. For this example, we're going to use an if statement. So let's see if we can add the if node. We're going to click the plus sign right here, type in if, and select the if node. Now you'll see that our data from the last step is here. So we're going to be able to use this, but we actually forgot to do one thing. We don't want to keep calling the ChatGPT node. So let's go back into the ChatGPT node and make sure that we pin the data while we're working on this. Perfect. So now we're going to need to switch to expression so that way we can reference the key for our score. So we'll switch it to an expression. Now that we've added the expression, we need to check the comparison. And to do that, we need to understand one more thing about JSON. If you look at the values, you'll see that some of them are in purple quotes. These quotes let us know that the values are called strings, basically just a collection of characters. When we look at the number, you'll see that it's in green with no quotes. And that's because that value is a number. So now when we go to the comparison, we need to select the right comparison type just to make sure that everything works. So we're going to select number and we're going to look for is greater than or equal to, because we want anybody who has 80% or better to automatically be sent to HR. Anybody who's less than that to automatically get the decline. So now the value that we're going to add is going to be 80. So we're checking the score to see if the score is greater than or equal to our value of 80. Now what's really great about this node is that you have a way to check multiple things at the same time. So let's say you wanted to, check the score and you wanted to check the location. We could have actually added an additional condition, and then we could have, if we had the location, select location, and let's say we wanted to make sure that they were located within, a certain area. So what happens is it would check whether the score was above 80 and the person was in the location that we wanted. Now you have another option where you could have used an or statement. With the or statement, we would be checking if one of those conditions are true. So for example, let's say either they need a score of 80 or they have to be, let's say, a new graduate. So we'll take somebody who has no experience as long as they just finished school as an example. Here would allow us to actually do that. Now we don't really need it. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete this, and now we can test to see if this branch works. Now you'll see in the output, we're given two branches. We have a true branch and a false branch. So nothing is showing in our true branch, which we wouldn't expect because the score was 0. But if we look at the false branch, you'll see all of the information that we had before is in the actual false branch. So this node is fully working. So now that we can handle the different results, what we can actually do is build another AI agent to handle the responses. So this is what we're going to do. Let's go back and let's build out the false logic first. And we're going to build another AI agent. We're going to message the model. And again, for the model, we are going to select the 4.0 model. Let's create a simple prompt to create the actual email that we're going to need for the output message. So for this one, we are going to do this. Make sure that we send it as a system. So you're a friendly HR agent for a company named We Are Plumbers that will draft a friendly email to let somebody know that unfortunately they weren't selected for the job. We make sure again that we're going to output this as JSON. And again, we're going to need to send it the actual message with the information from the inputs. So we're going to select prompt. We'll put name, email, summary, which is what it's expecting. And we'll just drag and drop name, email, summary. Perfect. And we have to output this as a JSON file. Okay, this looks good. Let's test this out. Okay, let's see. It says subject. Yeah, thank you for your interest in senior plumber position. Dear Chris, after carefully review, we've decided to move forward with another candidate. Look more closely as we regret. Perfect. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to pin this response so that way we can use it for the next step. Perfect. This is great. So now we have a way to take somebody's cover letter, assess whether or not they're a good fit, then draft an email, then have AI create a message that can be used in an email. The last thing we're going to actually need to do is create the actual email itself. So N8N makes this simple again. All we need to do is add a Gmail node. We're going to select Gmail. And for this one, we want it to create a draft. So now to connect your account, it's very simple. You hit create new connection, and then you can just simply sign in with Gmail. I've already done that, so we won't do this. We'll close that there. Now, we're going to go back to the expressions. We're going to select for the subject. We already have the subject that's dynamically will be generated, so we drop that in there. And then for the actual message, we already have the message right here. Perfect. And then the last thing we're going to need is probably an email, so we're going to add another property. We'll add a to email, and then we will copy the expression right there. Perfect. So we've referenced the subject key, the message key, and the email key. And the only thing that's left is for us to actually test this. So what we're going to do is we're going to click test step. Now, when we go over to our email, have to wait a little bit, we're going to see if it was able to create a draft email. Excellent. So now let's take a look at the draft. We can see it added our email address. It added the subject. It says it has the email, everything that we need. This is perfect. It looks like everything was successful and the email is pretty good. So now let's go back to N8N. Now that we know that this is successful, the only thing we need to do now is duplicate this for the candidates that scored 80% or above. So to do that, we just select the two nodes, we right click, and we're going to hit duplicate these nodes. I'll place these nodes right above here, right above the previous ones. And now we need to connect them. So I'm going to just connect it like that. And now we just got to make a quick change. And now, just so that way we remember where everything is, let's actually change the name. We'll call this Successful AI Agent, and we'll call the lower one Rejection AI Agent, and then we'll call this one over here Cover Letter Ranker AI Agent. And now we're just going to make some quick changes to the workflow in here. We'll make sure to unpin the results. And we need to change the system prompt because this prompt is for somebody who wasn't successful. So let's create a new prompt. We'll use this prompt, make sure it's JSON. Okay. And we'll just double check, make sure that our email is all connected. Perfect. Now we don't actually have a candidate right now that is successful. So we're going to create a quick cover letter for somebody who will score greater than 80%. But before we do that, let's make sure we unpin the results because we're going to need to rerun everything with new information. We're going to click test workflow, call this, and let's paste the cover letter. Let's hit submit. Let's take a look. Perfect. So it looks like our AI agent ranker, it was passed. We can click in here and take a look at what that looks like. Looks like I scored 90% with that one. It went through the if statement to check if it was true, and this one was true, and then it generated a successful email, and then it generated the text for our email, and then created the draft in Gmail. So let's take a look at what it created. It says, thank you so much for your application. We're impressed with your experience and skills, and we'd love to invite you to an interview to learn more below. Could you please provide us with some time? That is perfect. So as you can see, our workflow was able to determine whether or not an applicant was a good match for a position. It then was able to draft customized emails, either based on the success or rejection of the email. And then it created the draft directly into our inbox. Now, the only other thing that we could probably add to this is it would feel a little bit unnatural if we sent an application and immediately got a response back. So what we need is we need a way to delay the responses. Well, N8N gives us a way to do this. Basically, all we need to do is add a wait node. And how the wait node will work is it'll wait a period of time before it executes the next step. So we're going to add a wait node. Type in wait. And the wait node is very simple. It waits a certain period of time. It can be seconds, minutes, hours, days. For this one, we'll just keep it at 5 seconds just to test it out. And when we click test, you'll see after 5 seconds, that it's able to continue on. We'll do the same thing for the rejection, wait, and I can just put, let's say 7 seconds, and we can put tests, and then now it'll go through the exact same process. It'll wait 7 seconds, and then it'll succeed. Now there's still one more thing that we can do, which will make it easier to revisit this. We can actually add some labels. So if we go into the top right-hand corner, you'll click this little add sticky notepad right here, and we could go like this, and we can go like this. And then we can add a quick note saying handle emails for rejection or interview. We could add another sticky note over here, and we can just call this one rank cover letters. Using notes is a great way for you to come back so that way you can remember exactly what it was that you did and how each of the nodes worked. There's one other important step that you must always do is you must always save your work. We could keep building on this to handle multiple positions, file uploads, even HR feedback. The possibilities are only limited to your imagination. So if you want to see what else you can build with AI and AI agents, then you're going to want to click right here.